Now, everyone, it is my pleasure to introduce Keller, who will serve as presenter. First, a big thank you to Rich for joining us. With an MBA from Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, Rich resides in Florham Park, New Jersey, with his wife Sharon, who is an obstetrician gynecologist, and their two children, Zachary and Samantha. A fun fact Rich likes to share: you can't miss him in a crowd because he's either wearing his signature Survivor buff or one of the 50 other buffs that he has collected since his teenage years. Rich teaches in the Rutgers Mini MBA Brand Development and Marketing Communications program. He's consistently praised for his energetic delivery of relevant and timely insights on personal and corporate branding. Thank you, Rich, and I'm going to let you take over from here.
Thank you, Margaret, for having me. I appreciate it. I am going to start right away. I'm going to ask everyone to grab a pen and a piece of paper. And when I show you the following two brands, I just want you to write down on that piece of paper the one word that immediately comes to mind. There's no studying, no tricks. I just want to know what word was in your head. And I'll ask you to reveal it a little later. The first one is Apple. Write down the one word that immediately comes to mind. And the second one is Snickers. Write down the first word that immediately comes to mind. To begin, I have a confession to make. As you might have guessed by my photo, I'm a huge fan of the hit show Survivor. The Survivor buff gives it away. I wear this buff all the time. It's pretty much glued to my head. The actions of the players on this hit show raises a thought-provoking question. Is what you do truly who you are? The players do whatever it takes to win, such as lying or blindsiding tribe mates, all in an effort to reach one goal: winning $1 million. So I have a $1 million question to ask all of you today. Have you ever given thought as to who you are beneath the surface label of what you do? Well, I have, but that didn't happen until I was in my late 40s. And this Survivor buff is a key ingredient to my story. You see, people always ask me, why do you wear this buff, Rich? Now, I would love to tell you all that I was on the hit show Survivor. That's usually the first question people ask me when they meet me for the very first time. But the real truth is this: I grew up invisible to the people that I thought were the most important in my life. And wearing this buff made me feel visible as I was struggling to be a survivor in my own story. I want to share the 5 factors that impacted my self-esteem growing up. Number one, I lived my entire childhood in fear of my dad, whom I was convinced was going to kill my mom because they fought 24/7, 365. My dad told me every single day that I wasn't athletic enough because my older brother was the captain of the high school football team, and I chose bowling as my sport. Number 3, my older brother and twin sister told me every single day that I wasn't smart enough because I couldn't get into an Ivy League college like they did. And then my world came crashing down when I was diagnosed with testicular cancer at the age of 26. And my first thought was, I'm never going to be a dad. That was more devastating to me than the thought of dying. Fast forward 17 years later, and that dreaded cancer word would come back to taunt me. Except this time it was my wife's turn. She was diagnosed with advanced breast cancer at the age of 43. And I was preparing to become a 40-something single dad. Now, here's the great news. 12 years later, that did not happen. She's doing amazing. But you know what did happen? Despite all of these obstacles that I had to conquer, I not only survived, I thrived, and here's how. I am a dad with 2 children I am deeply connected to. I am athletic. I ran the New York City Marathon in 2003, having never run a day in my life. I trained for 365 days, and 26.2 miles later, I crossed that finish line. I am smart. I have my MBA from the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. And I say this in the most humble way because I was told every single day as a teenager, you're not smart enough to get an Ivy League education, Rich. And I am a survivor, a cancer survivor, that is. You see, for years, I thought my identity was defined by what I was doing. Dad, marathoner, MBA, survivor. However, it wasn't until a professional recruiter said something to me during a job interview that made me truly understand who I was beneath the surface. When explaining why I was not being considered for the job that I was absolutely qualified for, she looked right at me and said, I can't give you the job, Rich, because the company is looking for a marketer to babysit this brand, someone to maintain the status quo. And you're a catalyst, someone who likes to shake things up. Despite being devastated, this recruiter actually gave me a gift, my core value in one word. Dad, marathoner, MBA, survivor are just surface labels to describe what I do. They're not who I am. That recruiter made me see that my personal brand is the core value I give away to the world to improve the lives of others as a catalyst. You see, a catalyst is an agent that provokes or speeds significant action or change without itself being affected. And it rang so true. I do feel most alive when I'm disrupting the way people think and provoking change. And in that moment, in that recruiter's office, my personal brand was born. Catalyst is the one word that defines how I stand out, conquer obstacles, reach excellence, in other words, score. Now, I have to tell you all, this revelation was actually ironic because as a marketing executive at global multi-billion-dollar consumer products companies, I created this core value one word approach for 25 years to successfully craft identities for some of the world's most iconic brands. Brands like Oreo, Chips Ahoy, Planters, and Godiva, to name a few. But here's the thing, sometimes we just don't see what's right in front of our eyes. So with catalyst as my one word, I remember leaving the office and saying to myself, if this one word philosophy worked on the brands I marketed throughout my career, perhaps this can work on people too. Having marketed iconic brands at Nabisco, Kraft Foods, Cadbury, Godiva, I understand that consumers buy from entities they know, they like, and they trust. And that's when a light bulb went off in my head. All successful brands share one key ingredient. And I'm going to ask you all, if you don't mind, to type in the chat box, think of the brands that you think are successful. What is the one key ingredient they all share? Just type in some answers so I can see what you're all thinking. Does anybody want to type in some answers?
But they're coming into the Q&A.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let
So
me look at the Q. Let me look at the Q&A. Okay, got it. Okay, quality, trust. Okay. Quality, great. Trustworthy. Value, reliability, great. Loyalty, customer service, change, trust. Awesome. 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 Well, I cannot disagree with any of those answers because it's a subjective question, but based on my research, let me share what I've uncovered. They create an emotional connection. So I thought, what if I helped people discover their core value in one word, then use my branding experience to help them leverage this core value as the identity for their personal brands? I realized that I'd be introducing a revolutionary, unique way for young adult people to brand themselves while at the same time using their core value as an inner compass to guide them on their life's path. I always say, let who you are drive what you do, not the other way around. But here's the thing, I had one challenge standing in my way. I needed someone to test my hypothesis, and a conversation one evening with my son, Zach, would change the entire trajectory of my life. Sitting in our kitchen, I was helping Zach prepare for his college interviews, and I asked him one simple question. Tell me about yourself. To which he looked at me and said, that's an overwhelming question, Dad, and they don't teach us how to answer this in high school. And that's when I thought to myself, I'm going to help Zach discover his core value in one word. He didn't know it yet. and then help him leverage that core value as the identity of his personal brand. And I was so excited. So I shared my idea with him in the kitchen, and he literally said the following to me, and I'll let you say this phrase to yourself. Now, clearly, I had some work to do. And while it did take a few days of convincing him, Zach eventually agreed to help me validate my hypothesis that crafting your personal brand around your core value is the pathway to reaching excellence. So, what did I do? I gave Zach a series of questions that probed him to not only think about himself, but also how he was seen by others. And after reflecting on his answers, something transformational happened. He found the common thread that led him to his core value, and perseverance was born. I have to tell you, I could see the excitement Zach felt when he landed on his one word. It was clear we discovered the value that defined Zach at his core. But Zach went one step further and wrote an outstanding college personal statement by sharing a story from sleepaway camp about a campfire competition he participated in. And despite a devastating loss, this event truly demonstrated how he lives his core value of perseverance. 5 years later, Zach is a graduate of Cornell University and a management consultant at Ernst & Young in New York City. But I have to share that beyond these accomplishments, which are great, I gave Zach something more powerful to take with him into his future: the confidence to identify and pursue opportunities that align with who he is. And seeing firsthand the impact this one word had on Zach's personal and professional success finally gave me the courage to quit my 25-year corporate brand marketing career. I gave up salary, I gave up title, I gave up security, so I can travel the country on a mission to transform 1 million lives one word at a time by disrupting the conversation around the simple question, tell me about yourself. And that's why I'm here today, to inspire all of you to consider how the power of crafting your personal brand with just one word can transform how you are seen by the world, so you can also stand out, conquer obstacles, reach excellence, and score like Zach is doing. Now, one of the most critical barriers to success is understanding what a brand is and what a brand is not. I get this question all the time. Let me tell you what a brand is not. A brand is not a name, logo, tagline, package design, or the product itself. A brand is simply this: an emotional identity that differentiates products, services, and people. And I want to do an interactive exercise with all of you now to prove my point. If I told you that Lady Godiva is going to contact you after this talk ends and you're going to take her to dinner, and tomorrow night the M&M's characters are going to contact you and you're going to take all of them to dinner, here's my question, and if you could type it in the chat box, I would appreciate it. Would you take both of these brands to the same restaurant? Type yes or no.
People are still having trouble accessing the chat. We'll find your
Okay, they could
answers
do
in
it.
the Q&A.
Okay, so tell chat. Okay, there we go. Okay, I love that. No way, love that. Okay, okay. Most of you say no. Well, let me tell you something. Once again, subjective, but I have to tell you, the answer is no. And ladies and gentlemen, that's branding. Two different identities, two different restaurants. Here's the deal. You could take them to the same restaurant. One of them is going to feel out of place. It's not right or wrong. It's just that it will not align with who they are, their identity. So you all did a great job in answering that question, because they have two different identities, two different one words. And that is what branding is. It's that emotional identity. It comes from your heart. And creating that identity is the key to inspiring emotions in people and crafting a winning, differentiated brand. People buy brands with their hearts, not with their heads. I want to say that again because it's so important. People buy brands with their hearts, emotional, not with their heads, functional. The key to crafting your brand identity is understanding that how you make people feel and the core value you offer them is way more important than the tangible product or service you provide. What I want to make clear is that people purchase core value and it's delivered through a brand's products and services. And I'll show you that with the brands that I selected in the beginning and how that works shortly. But I want to go back to the brands now that I shared in the beginning. And what I would love for you to do in the chat box or the Q&A box, if you want, I would like you to type in the word that you wrote down for Apple. Innovation, tech, stellar, iPod, simple. Innovation, Apple, trust, design, great. Computer, all encompassing. Computer, great, overpriced. Love it. Oh, this is great. You guys are doing a great job. Excellence, connection, innovation. No. Okay. Okay. Type in the word that you put for Snickers. Okay. Fat, nuts, fun, sweet, yummy, delicious, yummy, satisfies, yum, fattening, allergic, heaven, hungry, candy, yum, awesome, great. TV commercial. You guys all did a great job. You did a great job. Okay, you all did a great, great job. Thank you. Here's the interesting thing. The majority of the people I speak with around the country, they tell me the surface label that each brand falls into. For example, most people say iPhone or Mac for Apple. Most people say chocolate bar for Snickers. What they don't tell me is the core value each brand gives away to the world to improve the lives of others. Now I want to shift your thinking about your personal brand so you focus on the core value you give away to the world, not the surface label people may associate you with, for example, what you do for a living. And I want to use myself as an example. Survivor is one surface label I fall into as a result of having cancer, as I shared. But you can also label me a marathoner, marketer, or dad, things I do. But my personal brand, who I am, is the core value I give away to the world in just one word as a catalyst. And here's why it matters. The Harvard study of communication said that it only takes 7 seconds for you to make a first impression on another human being. Only 7 seconds. Do me a favor, please, in the Q&A, type in if you knew that. Type in yes or no if you knew that. Only 7 seconds. Yeah, a lot of yeses and nos. That's great. Okay, a lot of yeses. Awesome. Okay, we got a couple of no's, a lot of no's coming in. Okay, that's great. Okay. 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 In this hyper accelerated digital world we now live in, I call this your new elevator speech in one word. By the time you shake hands, make eye contact and say, hi, my name is Margaret and it's nice to meet you. There are not many words left to say before your 7 seconds are up. What else could you possibly do to make some overwhelmingly positive first impression? The answer is to communicate your core value, what you give away to the world to improve the lives of others. Distilling your identity down to its one word core value makes it both simple and memorable. And you are best served if you can label your core value with just one word in order to stand for something that people will easily remember, believe, and link to all facets of your life that reflect who you are. The goal is to let your emotional identity shine through by crafting your personal brand around your core value. And here's why you'll score. 99.99999% of all decision making is based on emotions, how we feel. I want everyone to think about this. No one rationally spends $6+ at Starbucks on a solo venti non-fat with whipped white mocha. That's my drink, by the way. It's because branding is irrational and we want to feel a part of the Starbucks identity. So if you want to stand out from the pack, you must connect emotionally by clearly communicating the core value you are giving away to your audience in exchange for their time and money. And I believe the easiest way to do this is by answering the one question I am sure people ask you in any business, social, or interview setting. Tell me about yourself. Do you know what they're really asking you here? I'd like to share what they're really asking you. Tell me how you add value. If you answer this question by starting with your core value in just one word, you will then make a powerful first impression in 7 seconds with confidence, clarity, and conviction. And then, along with your one word, share an example that demonstrates how you bring your one word to life. For example, I'm Rich Keller, the catalyst. I disrupt normal to get people to think differently, stimulate progress, and simplify their branding. 7 seconds. Share who you are and the impact you make, then what you do. You win people over when you craft your personal brand around your core value and then lead with this core value to bring your identity to life. And here's why. The foundation for all successful personal brands begins with emotional connection, begins from the heart. And your core value is the bridge to create that emotional connection. And all it takes is one word. So I really encourage everybody today to let your core value lead the way in sharing who you are with the world, because people buy human connection first. People buy human connection. Think about the realtor that you just bought a house from or sold the house from. You're buying the realtor, not the company they came from. They do represent the company, but it's because of their core values, something about them that you saw in that connection led you to that person. So I want you to never underestimate the power of your personal brand in this digitally connected world we now live in. And here's why. Here's why the one word is so important. Consistency breeds credibility, ensuring that you too will stand out, conquer obstacles, reach excellence. And all it takes is one word to do that. And so what I want to do now is I want to go back to the brands that I shared in the beginning. And I'm going to ask all of you I want you to think of something here. I want you to think of the core value that each brand brings to your life. You purchased the core value from this brand. And I want you to think about, and the product itself is the delivery vehicle. So I want you to think about, what is this brand selling me? And if any of you want to just take a shot at just putting in, what do you think Apple's one word is now after listening to this? Connectivity, connection, simplicity, security, efficiency, connections, creativity. Wow, you guys are doing great. Easy, connection, excellence, status, innovation. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Now, normally when I'm on stage, I would pick somebody in the audience to work with, but it's challenging to do here. So I'm going to share the word. I have to say, a couple of you got the word. I do want to say it's a subjective. It's my philosophy. It's after studying, but I'm going to share why the brand core value is simplicity. And some of you got it. Huang and then I saw, I would go with efficiency on Jennifer, Keith, easy, and so on. When I work with people, what I tell them is, think about Apple and who comes to mind, and everybody says Steve Jobs. And I say to people, okay, great, awesome. Remember, people buy human connection first. What did Steve wear on every single stage he went on? And people say, oh yeah, Rich, you're right. He wore I think it was a black turtleneck, and then he wore those jeans, and then he wore sneakers, and I'm like, can you tell me the brand? Most people can't, but it's New Balance. People say Nike. But here's the thing. Steve Jobs was embodying his core value on every stage and telling the audience, we sell simplicity. We make your life easy, effortless technology. And what he was doing was, he, on every stage, embodied that core value. CEO of the company, he took his magic wand of simplicity and put it into a phone, an iPhone, a computer, music player, AirPods, watch, and so on. If you look at the first brochure that Apple ever did in the 70s, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. That was his simple wardrobe, but he has plenty of money to buy clothing. What he was doing was exactly what my philosophy is about. He was telling people who he was. I'm all about simplicity and I'm going to put it into my company. And if the product isn't simple, the product doesn't go out. And so that's the idea that I want all of you to think about as you embody this core value. How do you bring it to life? And in this case, Steve brought it to life by his wardrobe. And he wanted to remind people that we make simple products. Think differently. Technology is complex, but if you think differently, we're going to make it simple. During COVID, people did not have to leave their home. They can use their phone. And now I'm not saying that you can have other brands other than Apple, but if you have a Samsung phone, Samsung is more technology driven. It's more for people that are into the tech game. You could be 8 years old or 85 years old. And at the end of the day, everybody can use an Apple product. So I just want to say thank you to some of the people that got that. And hopefully that makes a lot of sense. We'll talk about Q&A at the end if anybody has any questions. Okay. Snickers. Go to the Q&A. I want you to think about their campaign or their campaigns over the years. Okay. I want you to think about, you could think about the product because the hint is in the product. But what do you think that Snickers is trying to actually sell you? Okay, we get satisfaction. Anybody else want to write some answers? Satisfies. Anybody else? Okay, another one. Satisfies. Satisfies. Filling. Satisfaction. Fulfilling. Okay, we go again. All right. Connection. Comfort. Okay. Okay. A boost. Great. Energy. Satiation. Fulfillment. Awesome. Convenience. Great. Hunger, satisfaction. Judith. Nice. Healthiest snack option. Comfort. Loyalty when snacking. Fulfilling. Okay. Okay. Gratification. Fun. Healthy option. Satisfaction. Nikki. Okay. All right. Wow. You guys got it. And I love the shift in thinking. Here's the thing. You're not you and you're hungry. Their campaign is so famous for an insight that they uncovered. And people have insights as well, something about yourself that you realized and other people are saying about you, but you just didn't get it until you went underneath the surface. Hangry. We're all hangry at times. We're all not ourselves when we're really hungry. But think about it. The reason why they sell satisfaction, they're in the satisfaction business. You're in the business of your core value. Apple is in the simplicity business. I'm in the catalyst business. I've chosen branding as my category. Apple has chosen technology. Snickers is in the satisfaction business, and they've chosen confectionery. But here's the thing. It's packed with peanuts, period. Peanuts are satisfying. They fill you up. We're not saying here it's a healthier version. We're not saying it's anything about wellness. But what we are saying is it is a satisfying snack. You are not yourself has real impact on your ability to remain a part of the day, be present. And so it's the go-to solution for fast acting hunger relief. And why? Because it's packed with peanuts and it satisfies hunger. And in the ad campaign, the story behind Snickers is all about satisfaction. So advertisers, while it may not be an entrepreneur who started a brand, that's why advertising is so powerful. They pick people that you can relate to and you're watching the story, but what they're selling you through that story is the core value, and then they deliver it through the product. Snickers in the satisfaction business. You guys did a great job on all that. That was awesome. Okay. So what I want to do now, before we get to Q&A, is I want to offer an opportunity to continue the conversation. I offer a 30-minute discovery. I'll give a hint. I stay on as long as you want, but I say 30 minutes. go to OneTub, go.onetub.com/Rich Keller, put in the subject line Rutgers. I'm happy to continue the conversation. I have many brands. I can talk about yourself and what you need to think about. But, given the essence of time, I always like to continue the conversation with people that want to learn more about my one word philosophy. I also want to share that I recently just launched my TED Talk. Your one word tells people who you are, not what you do. I really encourage you all 16 minutes. It'll give you the power of the one word. I shared my son's story and my story and 4 client stories, and it'll just give you a sense of how the one word can do the same for you that it did for these people and myself included. Connect with me on LinkedIn, visit my website. I'm always available. I teach in the Rutgers Exec Ed program. I'm very passionate about this philosophy because I think it's important. If you can just simply tell people who you are and then link your story together around that core value and then use it as your inner compass going forward. I will share with everyone the reason I am so passionate about this philosophy was because after college, I was an accountant for 5 years. And if I knew I was a catalyst at 22 versus 49, I would never have gone that route because I didn't know that who you are drives what you do. So I just want to give you a context of how my story came to be. I was in the wrong show, even in corporate America. I could tell you the times I loved my job, and I could tell you the times I was really unhappy. And when I was unhappy, it's because I wasn't being able to disrupt the game. And so I knew it was time for me to move on from corporate America and go out now and serve people like yourselves to help you do the same thing I did, which is distill your identity down to one word and connect with people emotionally. So I'm always happy to continue the conversation. And I'll end by saying this. As you work through, as you work through your game plan to personal and professional success, strongly consider integrating your core value as the identity of your personal brand to drive that emotional connection, especially when answering the question, tell me about yourself. You no longer have to have a job. You could still answer, tell me about yourself by sharing the core value that you offer. Then tell them things you're doing, and it doesn't have to be a current job. That's the beauty of the power of tell me about yourself, is really asking you, tell me how you add value. If you take away one thing today, one thing from this talk, I want you to walk away with this. What you do is not who you are, but who you are should drive what you do. So I want everybody to think beneath the surface and be more than a survivor, because all it takes is one word to score. And I just want to thank everyone for having me. I'm grateful to be here. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share my one word philosophy. Margaret, do you want to open it up if anybody has questions?
I absolutely do. We've gotten a couple of questions to come in already, so we'll get started with those. I usually have to direct people to the Q&A box at this point, but because whatever tech glitch happened that our
No
chat
problem.
wasn't operating earlier, but people have definitely found it.
No,
So
and I appreciate that because I had my chat box open and I was like, no one's answering. And then thank you for
yeah.
telling me that. Thank you.
And sidebar, but I did double check all the settings while we were on, and there's no reason that chat should be disabled. But thanks to both you and our audience for adapting and overcoming. So first question I want to share from our group is one about the questions that you had your son complete to find his word. And if you would either share them here or maybe we could share them afterward
Well,
when we follow up.
Well, I will tell you first off, I love that question. If you watch the first 7 minutes of my TED Talk, you will see the 5 questions of the 10. You'll see 5 of them. But I'll share some of them here. I'm more than happy to, but you will also see them in the TED Talk. The one word program is really about your whole life. It's not about your job, and I make that very clear. So I ask questions in the book. What situations make you come alive? That's it. If you like stirring cake batter, I want to know that. I'm reading between the lines. as those questions are being written out. I ask you, what are you great at? This is your moment when you work with me to boast, brag, and bring it. I need to know what you're great at, because underlying that surface, therein lies your core value. I ask you one thing I do ask, which is the most powerful question. Reach out to 5 people that know you well and ask them, what makes you unique? I guarantee you, you will get emotional on that answer. I've had grown men cry. And the reason is because if we don't have a title, if we don't have letters after our name, if we don't live in a certain town, we don't feel like we're unique or special, because society says what you do is who you are. And I'm saying it's the opposite. And those people that you select are going to tell you what makes you unique. And once again, you're looking for the linkage to get to that one word so you can share your story in a consistent manner. So those are just some of the questions that I ask.
That's great. I know that one of the most frequently asked questions that you receive is about getting started, and we had a question in that vein. How does one identify what your single identifying word is? What are some of the questions someone can ask themselves to try to figure that out on their own?
Yeah, and I would say things like, what are you great at? What situations make you come alive? I will also say that I have seen in my research a direct correlation from what you wanted to be when you were a kid to what your one word is. And I believe you're born with your core value. That's my whole philosophy. You're born with this. And so I ask people when I work with them, what did you want to be when you were a kid, and tell me why? And there is usually a correlation between your one word. Does it happen every time? No, but there is direct, I see evidence, because you're born with it and you're miring your way through life like I did, trying to figure out, what do I do that is in alignment with who I am? Now that I know that it's who you are drives what you do, you get to that one word, and then you get to go live the life you want to live.
Fantastic. So Rich, have you seen any consistency in that there are a lot of people that like a popular one word
You know,
that people discover?
that's a great question, and I will say, when I first started my platform about 5 years ago, people were like, can people have the same one word? And I get that question all the time, and my answer is, of course, there's a million cereals, there's a million beverages, there's a million candy bars. And I'm a catalyst, and Margaret, you may be a catalyst, but we're going to bring our identity to life in a different way. So one of the popular words that comes out from work I do is uplifter. I have a lot of people that are uplifters. I would say that, if you check my website, you'll see all the people that I've worked with. A lot of words appear once, more than once. But if you ask me about one that I can remember, it would be uplifter. I've had a couple of pathfinders. Um, I honestly have not had any catalysts yet, and I'm not saying that just because it's my one word. Like, I'm dying to find someone who's as disruptive as I am. But you can have the same one word, and the onus is on you to bring it to life, like Steve Jobs did, like Sarah Blakely does, like Howard Schultz does, Gary Vee. That's the whole essence of my platform, that you will be a different brand when you bring that core value to life in a way that gets people hit in their heart. So hopefully that helped.
Great. And we have a question about the best way to find out how people perceive you.
I love that question. I'll go back to what I said a little while ago. Ask 5 people to write a paragraph on what makes you unique. It's interesting, in my program, a lot of times I have to raise them up to the feedback they get, because they don't believe how unique they truly are. There are some times where I have had to bring people down to size. Like, they think they're amazing, and then their feedback, I'm reading between the lines, and their feedback isn't as, I'm not going to say it's negative, but it's not as stellar. And you know what? We have great self-reflective conversations as a result of that, because this is a self-reflection process. I mean, a lot of people, when they work with me, they're like, "Oh, I'll fill out the question, I'll answer all those, no problem." And then when they're done, they're like, "You made me think, and I didn't know if I really wanted to go there, but I went there." And that's where the core value lies. The self-reflection process is hard, but if you ever lose a job, lose a loved one, you have mental health challenges, and you're really not unhappy, if you confront that reflection and do what my son did, what I did, what the people I work with did, it will empower you to know what your superpower is. We all have a superpower. Period. You don't have to ever work a day in your life. You could sit on your balcony and watch the grass grow. You still have a core value. But the onus is on you to then take that and put it out in the world. So I work with a lot of people where I have to lift them up because we don't believe the feedback that we're receiving, because once again, society tells us if you don't do a certain thing, you can't be that great. And I'm saying, no, if you know who you are, you can go do anything in the world that aligns with it and be awesome.
That's great. I really happen to like this question quite a bit. Do you find that people want to have a word and have to dig deeper to find their real word?
Love that question. I can tell when you work with me, I can tell if somebody came into the process with a word that they wanted to end up with. And I call them out on it. And it's, I mean, it's really funny the way we work together with people. But yes, I think a lot of people think they know their one word. And by the way, working with me or not, if you feel your one word is, a certain word, and we don't work together, as long as you can bring that to life and be authentic about it. But usually you end up hitting the authenticity wall. And so a lot of times I'll go back to people and I'll be like, you really wanted that for your one word, right? And they said, well, I guess so. And then I show them in the book the linkages. The people do the work. I just deliver the cake. Like it's all ingredient based. And then I put it together to link it to a cake. And then people will buy what is there, but then the real work begins. Okay, well, maybe I do have to confront what I'm facing, because I always say the downside of doing the work is doing the work and going forward. And that's what happened to me. Like, I had to leave the corporate world. I didn't have a choice and I quit on the spot, but I'm a catalyst. I had to do it that way. And so you start living your one word. I have people call me all the time and they're like, I used my one word today. And I'm like blown away by that. But I'm like, no, that makes total sense, because that lights you up and makes you realize that you are in the right show and that you are making a difference. And so, yeah, hopefully that answered that question.
That's great. I also like this next question that Walter posed. At what age do you ascertain that your assumed core value is real and not just a childish exuberation?
That's great. I work with high school students. I work with college students. I work with entrepreneurs. I, I mean, I would even go down to middle school if I could. You're born with your core value, period. Like, your purpose can change in life, but your core value does not. And if there is a childish exuberance, good. That's why I asked what you wanted to be when you were a kid, because so many times I work with young adults and they say to me, oh, I can't do that. My parents won't be happy. I can't, like if I tell them they're astute and that they write really well, and I'm like, well, why aren't you a writer? Oh, my parents would kill me. And I'm like, oh, so J.K. Rowling, you would look at her and say, oh, I can't do that. And what I say to them, and they look at me and then they realize, I'm like, you have to put the work in. You have to do the work. But like, if you really take what you love and then you grab your core value from it and go do the work, I mean, you have to do, who you are drives what you do. And for the success of what you do, takes work, it takes focus, it takes grit. Keep your head down. So I always say, if it's childish exuberance, good, that'll come out in the workbook, because that is where your core value lies. And you have to then take that and say, okay, how do I go out in the world? Look what I'm doing now. I'm working with people to help them step into their identity. Not easy. People think I'm crazy, and they thought I was crazy when I walked away from all that success. But I can tell you that the joy in serving others now and giving people their magic and their superpower, I call it your core value, that's what lights me up and makes me feel that I'm disrupting the game. So you're born with your core value. There's no break. If you feel you break it, then you have to come back to me, because you're not authentically owning then who you are.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, Rich, do you have something that you can think of when you were a kid that you wanted to be?
Um, I my number one goal was to be a talk show host. my number one goal, I always wanted to be on stage. And what I've always struggled with, I used to get like really nervous when I was in the school plays and, my Adam's apple would always shake. But what I realized is I want to be on stage because I want to change the game. And that's what I'm doing now. I want to spread my philosophy to impact lives. And so being a talk show host, being a motivational speaker, having a TED Talk, I have my own podcast. I'm living what I wanted to be as a kid, but I'm doing it in a way that disrupts the way people think about themselves. So I now understand why I was always nervous on stage, because I don't want to be the center of attention, but I want to be the focus so that I can serve the audience and help them do the same exact thing that it did for me. And that's really what my philosophy is about. It's changed my life. It changed my game and it changed my son's game. And so I feel like, well, why can't I help others do the same? That's where the work lies, for you to uncover what is your superpower, what's your core value. So I'm living what I wanted to do as a kid. Not easy. I still get nervous on stage, but it's because I care. I care about the audience and I want them to walk away inspired that one word can do the same thing for them as it did for me.
Wow. Um, you got me thinking about what I wanted to be when I was growing up, and I wanted to be a nurse. And I
There
do
you
something
go.
So different now, but can look back and see the connections to things like, helping people who are in need and,
There you
things
go.
like that. Yeah,
There you go. I bet
definitely.
your core value lies in that. Sure. Not, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not definite. Like it doesn't work 100% of the time, but research is research. 97%, I can connect it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to definitely dig deeper. We won't do that here, but I definitely have to talk to you more about that. I
Yeah.
wanted to share a really nice comment. It's not exactly a question, but if anyone that does have more questions, we have a little bit more time to address those. But I'll share this comment that someone said that they're opening their marketing freelance agency all by herself and thinks this is exactly what was missing. You can learn
Oh,
all the skills and get certifications, but who you are and what your driving force is definitely makes you stand out. And clients want to see why you do what you do, because that results in the best possible work that you can do for them.
wow. Wow, Rena, people buy human connection. Go for it. They're buying you. That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I will, if I can end on just one quick story that I think will also leave people feeling inspired. It's in my TEDx talk, but I worked with a guy named Sam, and Sam came to me and we did the work together. And Sam is an elevator. And when I gave him his word on the Zoom, he looked at me and I'm like, "Are you okay, Sam?" And he goes, "Wow, like I didn't tell you this in my workbook." And he told me the story how he was on the basketball team in high school, never played a day on the court, never. And his coach gave him a nickname that he didn't put in the workbook, but he was like, "Oh my God, I now know why he called me that." His coach nicknamed him Ladder Man because he raised everybody's game with enthusiasm, vigor, grit. And he was like, "Oh my God, I'm an elevator." And that's the clarity that you need to get. Because once you own that, Sam's a new person today. And I still talk to him. So I want to leave with that story because you already know your one word. It's just a matter of extracting it now and then letting that take you to the compass, to the North Star, to the top of the mountain, like I'm trying to do. So thank you.
Very nice. I have two quick things that I want to ask you. We have someone who wanted you to restate the phrase that started disrupt normal to,
Oh, my phrase.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, Let me just get it because I want to I disrupt normal to get people to think differently, stimulate progress, and simplify their branding.
Excellent. Excellent. And
Yeah.
could you scroll back to the part in your
Yes.
slide where people can go to the one-on-one session so
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
first and foremost for anybody who wants to see
Yeah.
that. There we go.
Take a
Excellent.
snapshot. I'm happy to share it in the email as well later on. But yeah,
And
thank
we can leave that up while I say a few very kind words about Rich. Rich,
Aw,
yeah, thank you so much for your time and for enlightening all of us on branding, and for doing so with such a great deal of passion. You can definitely feel that in the room, so to speak. And those interested in seeing Rich teach with us can find him among the stellar faculty in our next mini MBA Brand Development and Marketing Communications. More information can be found about that on the Executive Education section of the Business School website. I'd like to thank our audience as well for the
thank
enthusiastic
you.
participation, right?
Yeah.
Um, the interactive exercises, adapting quickly when chat wasn't functioning for us,
Yeah, you guys
and
did great.
yeah, and for great questions. And I find that the audience always, their input always enhances the dialogue.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, Now, if you wouldn't mind scrolling so that they can see how to hear about future
You
webinars.
get
There we
it. No
go.
problem.
Yes. RBS webinars take place monthly on Fridays at noon Eastern. And for more information, you can always visit our webpage, business.rutgers.edu/alumni/lifelong-learning. And you don't have to, make note of that if you're here with us live, because it'll be emailed to all of the registrants and conveniently appears on the screen for anyone who's watching. We always have an exciting schedule lined up, thanks to suggestions of topics and presenters from our audience. We encourage you to keep sharing those ideas with us. We want our series to continue to meet your needs, so please stay online for just a moment longer as the webinar ends, because you'll receive a very brief 3-question survey popping up right on your screen about today's event. One of those questions is a free form field, and you can type in subjects or speakers you'd like to have featured in future webinars. And finally, as I mentioned when our webinar began earlier, a link to the archive recording of this presentation will be shared via social media and emailed to registrants. It will also be on the Business Insights page of our website, along with recordings of our previous virtual Lunch and Learns. So Rich, thank you. A fantastic
Thank
audience, I
you.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, Rich. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.